Hello guys, so today I'm going to be talking about annotated bibliographies. So this is going to be an abbreviated guide to annotated bibliographies because before you view this video, you should have already watched Ms. Tinch's more elaborated, detailed screencast over annotated bibliographies. So make sure you're watching that first because it is going to give you great information and details over how to find these sources and what you're going to be doing with them. So after you view that, if you need a refresher, I'm going to quickly go through how I work through my annotated bibliographies and the main 3 points that I use to make sure that I'm hitting everything that I need. So just to refresh, what is it? So an annotated bibliography is a list of citations, each followed by a brief descriptive and evaluative paragraph. So the purpose of this annotation is to let the reader know that the sources you're using are relevant, they're accurate, and they're quality. So you don't want to be using a random www.com source that you found on the internet that really doesn't pertain to your research question. So by having this annotated bibliography, you're letting your readers know that yes, you can trust the information in my paper. And it's also just a great guide for how you're going to write. After creating your annotated bibliography, you're going to have a lot of your topic sentences and body paragraph points kind of laid out for you through the information you find in these different sources. The way that I write my annotated bibliographies is by breaking that paragraph down into 3 steps. So number 1 would be summarize, number 2 is analysis, and number 3 is reflect and evaluate. So we're going to go into depth a little bit over what each of these mean. So to begin is the summarize section. So this is going to be the easiest part of your annotated bibliography paragraph. Here you're going to be providing the background and credibility of your author, letting the readers know that this person knows what they're talking about and they are studying in the field that you are going to be pulling information from. So you're going to talk about the main focus or purpose of their work, not yours, there, and the arguments that that author is making. So for the summary section, you're not going to be bringing up your ideas yet. You're really just going to be overviewing what you just read. So you're explaining that source in your own words. Your summary isn't going to have any quotations. It's just going to be a brief overview of the main points that you just read. The second section is to analyze the work. So this is going to have you go a little bit more in depth than that summary section. So now you're going to talk about what this source means for your particular topic. So you're going to look at this source and instead of just summarizing the idea, you're going to view it from the position that you're about to write from. So does it fit in with the other items you're annotating or with your research idea? The answer to that should be yes for both of those. Obviously, you're going to have to be looking for sources that go with your research idea, but does it fit in with other ideas you're annotating is kind of a more broad question. So you want to make sure that the sources on your list can be, related to one another. Can you take the information that author A says and combine it with the information that author B says to create any synthesis? You want similar ideas throughout your paper, or else you're going to have this unbalanced paper that doesn't really project one true idea. Remember, a research paper is really just going to be pushing for your side of this argument. The next 2 questions, is the source useful? If it's on your annotated bibliography and you're able to create this paragraph, the answer will be yes. And does the author appear credible? I believe that you guys are going to be getting your papers from KYVL, the Kentucky Virtual Library. That is a great site for awesome sources. Almost everything you get on there will either be peer-reviewed or just scholarly. So you know that those are good. Some other ones that I use is JSTOR. That's a great one. EBSCOhost is another good one, or even Google Scholar. But really, KYVL will kind of encompass a lot of the things that those 3 have as well. So you know that if you're finding your sources from one of those websites, you should be in the clear. The final section is the reflect and evaluate section of your paragraph. So as you go through each of these steps, the next one is going to become a little bit more in-depth and a little bit more personal to your specific paper. So here we're not talking about the author's idea. This is where you're going to bring in your ideas. So how is this source useful for you and your particular paper? So here's where you're going to be able to bring out the specific points of that paper that you're going to use in your own writing. How it expanded your understanding of the topic. So maybe you're not going to be quoting this, maybe you're just going to be paraphrasing a little bit from this. But if it allowed you to create a new body paragraph, it sparked an idea that lets you elaborate and create new topic sentences or present a different idea, that's still reflecting and evaluating, and that source is still something that needs to be cited in your work. So how do you plan to implement it? Maybe you're not going to use the entire 6-page paper. Maybe there's a subheading that really hones in on what your paper is about. You can bring up that category. You can say, this is where I feel this paper can best apply to my research. Writing that idea in there lets your readers know what you're getting from it, and it also gives you a guide to look back at later. So as you're writing, you might not know what you pulled the source for. You can go back and kind of work backwards. And this annotated bibliography can help you to write your paper. So describe any special features of the work that were unique or helpful. Maybe this is a scientific journal, so you have extremely credible authors, and that makes you feel more confident in this work. Maybe it brings up specific literature that you're interested in and that connects with your research idea. This can be very broad, so anything that kind of made this source stand out from the rest of the ones on the research page. Why did you choose it? And then the last thing is if you want to point out any defect, weakness, or suspected bias. So not every source that you use in your paper is going to be perfect, and a lot of times you might find bias. So this is where you can identify that if you feel that it is important for understanding why you used it or how it's going to impact your paper. If you're going to be using a source to present your counter argument that is kind of focusing more on your opposition, here's where you're going to explain that this is an example of what I'm arguing against. So this reflect and evaluate section, in my opinion, is the most important category of your annotated bibliography, because this is where you're getting down to the nitty-gritty and figuring out exactly how this is going to be seen in your paper. So when somebody is reading your annotated bibliography and they read that paragraph, they should be able to use that as a kind of mirror snapshot of what your paper is going to be reflecting. So that is my abbreviated guide to annotated bibliographies, just to give you guys a quick refresher on how I write mine and the tips that I feel are best useful. Make sure that if you have any more questions, you're either reaching out to Ms. Tinch or me, and to go back and look at the screencast that she put up, because it is super, super helpful in figuring out how to best find these sources that you will be evaluating. Thanks so much, guys, and good luck on your writing.